I was raised by my mom. Dad disappeared when I was just a kid, and his absence became more of a distant memory over time. Mom worked tirelessly, juggling multiple jobs to keep us going and ensuring I stayed focused on my education. Her sacrifices led me to earn a scholarship, sparing me from the crushing student debt many face today. I pursued a degree in business management, fueled by a mix of ambition and a fear of ever returning to the financial struggles we had when I was growing up. After graduating, I packed my bags and moved to the city. The first years were tough. Small apartment, living off instant noodles more nights than I cared to admit. But I landed a job at a major company. I started at the bottom, but I fought hard to climb the ladder. A few years later, I wasn't just working there. I was leading an entire department. It wasn't just a job for me. It was my domain, and I made sure everyone on my team felt valued. Lead with respect, I tell the new hires. Treat this role like it's yours, and soon you won't just be on the team, you'll be leading it. The team was great, a solid group of people. When I got promoted to department head, we went to a local bar to celebrate. Nothing extravagant, just a cozy spot with cold drinks and plenty of laughter. Here's to Erica, the new boss. Marco, one of my longest-standing colleagues, toasted. Everyone else joined in, the sound of clinking glasses ringing out over the bar's chatter. Thanks, everyone. We're all in this together. Let's keep making things happen. I yelled, and the team cheered in return. That night, amidst the celebrations, I spotted him, Jake. Our eyes met, and he casually strolled over with a smile that could disarm anyone. Looks like a celebration. What's the occasion? He asked, leaning against the bar. Just got promoted. Head of my department now, I said, trying not to sound too boastful. Impressive. Sounds like a tough gig, he replied with a respectful nod. I'm Jake, by the way. Erica, nice to meet you. What began as light conversation that night quickly turned into something deeper. Jake was a financier, and his understanding of numbers matched my expertise in managing projects. Over the next few months, casual dates turned into weekend get-togethers, and soon I found myself at his apartment more than my home. He had an incredible place, high ceilings, a view worth bragging about, and a warmth my small apartment could never provide. One evening, as we stood on his balcony, taking in the city skyline, Jake became serious. He held my hands, and I could feel his nervousness. Erica, these past few months with you have been the best of my life. I know this might seem sudden, but when you know, you just know, right? He said, his voice full of conviction and hope. I nodded, my heart racing as the city lights blurred before me. He pulled out a small box from his jacket and opened it, revealing a ring that sparkled in the dim light, almost as brightly as his eyes. Will you marry me, Erica? He asked again, his voice full of uncertainty. Yes, Jake, absolutely yes, I said, my voice trembling with emotion. And just like that, I was engaged to a man who truly saw me, loved me, and accepted all of me, even the tough parts. The day I was to meet Jake's parents, my stomach was in knots as we approached their mansion, a sprawling estate with a driveway that stretched further than my entire apartment. I could feel the weight of it all. The house wasn't just wealthy, it was extravagant. As we stepped out of the car, I realized just how out of place I felt. The mansion looked like something out of a period drama. Brick walls, ivy climbing, gargoyles watching like they knew I didn't belong. Jake squeezed my hand as we walked to the enormous oak doors. You'll be fine, Erica, he whispered, though his voice seemed to carry some doubt. The door swung open to reveal Mr. and Mrs. Hargrove. He was dressed in a suit that probably cost more than my rent, and she wore a gown that belonged in a fashion magazine. The foyer was massive, with a chandelier that sparkled like a constellation. Portraits of dignified ancestors lined the walls, each with a title like Sir or Lady. Erica, it's a pleasure to finally meet you, Mr. Hargrove said smoothly, his English accent carrying an air of sophistication. Mrs. Hargrove, I said, offering a smile that felt more like a reflex than genuine warmth. It's a pleasure to meet you both, I added, trying to steady my voice as we entered the dining room. Jake whispered quick tips about the etiquette, but they all blurred in my mind. Dinner was served, and it felt like sitting in an ice-cold room, the air thick with judgment. Mr. Hargrove pointed to a portrait of a stern-looking man with a thick beard. That's Sir Reginald Hargrove, one of our forebears from England. He came over in the 1800s and established our family here, he said proudly. Very impressive, I said, trying to sound interested, but it was hard to focus when I felt like every movement was being scrutinized. I reached for what I thought was the salad fork, only to be met with silence. I glanced at Jake for help, but before he could whisper, Mrs. Hargrove's voice sliced through the tension. Perhaps things are done differently where you come from, she said, her tone sharp and cutting. Sorry, still getting the hang of all this, I muttered, my face burning with embarrassment. Jake tried to diffuse the tension by sharing a story about us, but his parents were more interested in watching me struggle with the dessert spoon next. I felt smaller with every course. After dinner, we moved into the expansive living room, with its plush carpets and heavy curtains. The room felt even more stifling than the dining area. I sank into one of the ornate chairs, feeling like I was being put on display. Mrs. Hargrove perched on the edge of her seat, leaning forward as if preparing to pass judgment. Erica, dear, tell us more about your family. Your upbringing must have been quite different from ours. I hesitated, feeling Jake's tense gaze on me. Well, it was just me and my mom. My dad left when I was young, and I don't really remember him. Mom did everything on her own. She's a nurse. The room fell deathly silent. Mrs. Hargrove stood up abruptly, the sound of her chair scraping against the floor like a harsh cry. This is unacceptable, she declared, her voice dripping with disdain. We are descendants of an ancient lineage. We have standards, traditions. I will not allow my only son to marry someone without pedigree, without a proper lineage of her own. Mr. Hargrove, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. His words were deliberate, each one carrying weight. It's crucial for us that our family's connections are strong and well documented. Erica, can you even name your great-grandparents? I felt my face flush, the sting of embarrassment hitting me hard. I only know about my mother's side of the family, I admitted softly, my words barely audible. Mr. Hargrove gave me a disdainful glance, clearly unimpressed. This is exactly what we feared, he muttered under his breath. Jake quickly intervened, his voice a mix of firmness and pleading. Mom, Dad, please. Erica is kind, hardworking, and she loves me. Isn't that what really matters? His mother's eyes were cold and unwavering. Respect for our family's values is what matters, Jacob. If Erica is to be part of this family, she must understand and embrace our traditions. She needs to honor where she comes from, even if it's of no particular significance. Their words cut through the air, dismantling the warmth I had felt earlier in the evening. But Jake's gaze was on me, silently asking me to comply. Reluctantly, I nodded, agreeing to their terms. Okay, I said, trying to keep my composure. I'll learn about your family and your customs. Mrs. Hargrove seemed somewhat satisfied with my agreement. Good. You'll begin by studying our family history and identifying everyone in those portraits. It's more than just names, Erica. It's about showing respect for our lineage. As they continued, outlining their expectations, I felt a part of me shrink. What had started as a simple dinner had quickly become a test I didn't feel prepared for. I had agreed to their demands, but at what cost? As they continued discussing ancestors and noble deeds, I felt more isolated from them, and strangely, from the parts of Jake that were so deeply intertwined with this world. The following weeks were a blur. Between my day job and the etiquette and refinement classes Mr. and Mrs. Hargrove insisted on, I barely had time to breathe. My mornings started early and my nights ended late, leaving me drained. Elbows off the table, Erica, the instructor reminded me during one of our sessions. And remember, when you scoop the soup, move the spoon away from you. I tried to mimic her actions, but my mind was consumed with work, the ever-growing pile of wedding tasks, and the pressure mounting with each passing day. You're doing well, she said, her voice gentle. It takes time for these things to feel natural. I forced a smile. Thanks, it's just a lot. Just then, my phone rang. It was my mom. I excused myself and stepped outside to take the call, trying to find a quiet spot in the chaotic city. Hey, Mom, I said, my voice heavier than I had meant it to be. How are the wedding preparations going, darling? She asked, her voice a mix of excitement and concern. I paused, reluctant to worry her. It's good, learning a lot. I even learned how to waltz, I said, attempting to keep my tone upbeat. There was a slight silence, and I knew she wasn't entirely convinced. You sound exhausted, honey. Are you getting enough sleep? This shouldn't be so hard. You need to take care of yourself. I laughed faintly. I'll try, Mom. It's just a lot to juggle. Etiquette classes, dance lessons, work, and the wedding planning. Just remember what really matters, Erica. It's you and Jake, not all these rules and lessons. Her words were a comfort, but as soon as we hung up, the pressure returned. I was caught between appeasing Jake's parents and maintaining my own well-being. Each day felt like an uphill battle. Back inside, I returned to my training, the instructor's voice an unceasing hum as I practiced how to hold a wine glass correctly. Pinch the stem, not the bowl. During the rare quiet moments, I found myself staring blankly at the ceiling, wondering if it was all worth it. The endless scrutiny, the constant lessons, the disapproving looks from Mr. and Mrs. Hargrove whenever I made a mistake. One night, as I was about to drift to sleep, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Jake. How was your day? Miss you. I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I longed to express everything, the exhaustion, the frustration. But instead, I wrote, miss you too. Long day, but all good. Setting the phone down, the silence of my apartment felt deafening. Was this my life now? Smiling through the exhaustion, pretending everything was fine just to fit into a world that felt increasingly foreign. Finally, the day arrived. The venue was a blur of flowers, fancy attire, and the city's elite mingling in the air. My stomach churned as I stood in my long white dress, trying to calm my nerves. My mom approached, adjusting a loose curl on my forehead. Everything will be fine, Erica, she reassured, offering me a warm smile. I wanted to believe her, but as soon as the ceremony started, any hope of a peaceful day vanished. Jake's parents were on a mission to assert their dominance. Mr. Hargrove greeted guests with an air of superiority, and Mrs. Hargrove wasted no time reminding everyone how she had orchestrated the event. I tried to mingle, but Mrs. Hargrove pulled me aside with a tight smile. Erica dear, make sure our guests are well taken care of. Fetch some drinks. That's a good girl, she ordered, pointing to a group of older men loudly discussing politics. I started to move, but she gave me a sharp look. No buts. You're practically part of the family now. Show some initiative, she demanded. Reluctantly, I carried trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres, my dress trailing behind me. The weight of the fabric and the task made me feel more like a servant than the bride. I caught glimpses of Jake, laughing and chatting, unaware of my discomfort. As I passed another tray, I overheard Mrs. Hargrove's voice cutting through the conversation. Erica will be serving us tonight. It's good practice for her, don't you think? Her tone was patronizing, her eyes scanning the crowd for approval. That was the breaking point. I approached her, my hands trembling but my voice steady. I am not a waitress at my own wedding. There are staff here for that, I said, my voice firm. Mrs. Hargrove stood, feigning surprise. You should be grateful we allowed someone so simple into our family. Remember your place, Erica, she sneered, her words stinging. I felt my anger flare up. This is my wedding, not a show for your friends. I retorted, louder than I had intended. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to look at us. Jake, seeing the commotion, stumbled over a glass of champagne. What's going on? He asked, his words slurring slightly. Your mother is treating me like a servant at our wedding, Jake. This is not what today is about, I said, frustration bubbling over. Jake looked between me and his mother, confusion in his eyes. Erica, why are you making a scene? Just do what she says. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal, Jake. This is our day, and your mother is ruining it. I shot back, disbelief and hurt filling me. He took a long sip of champagne before responding. Look, Erica, you should be thankful I chose you. There were plenty of girls better than you, prettier, richer. You're making a fuss over nothing. The words struck me like a slap. I recoiled, the painful realization sinking in. The man I loved, the man I was about to marry, didn't see us as equals. To him, I was just another accessory to fit into the perfect mold his parents desired. As I clutched my bouquet, feeling like I might break in that moment, my mom appeared beside me. She looked at me, her concern clear, and wrapped me in a hug that seemed to shield me from everything else. Honey, do you love this man? Do you really want to marry him? She whispered, her voice full of worry. I shook my head, struggling to find my voice. No, Mom, I can't do this. I don't want to. She nodded, her jaw tightening in that determined way I recognize all too well. Gently, she took the bouquet from my hands and guided me to a chair, offering comfort with her touch. Then, with surprising energy, she walked up to the DJ, asked for the microphone, and faced the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention?" Her clear, steady voice sliced through the murmurs, pulling everyone's gaze toward her. A hushed silence followed, the kind that hints at something big about to unfold. Taking a deep breath, she turned directly to Mr. and Mrs. Hargrove. "I need to share something about truth and appearances," she began, her gaze unwavering. "I went to school with Charles and Eleanor Hargrove. Back then, they didn't have English accents or claim any noble heritage. Their families worked hard, just like ours." A murmur spread through the room. Charles's father was a mechanic and Eleanor's mother worked at the diner. She paused for effect. The titles, the accents, the legacy, they created all of it to hide the truth of where they came from. The room was abuzz with whispers, everyone turning to scrutinize the Hargroves, who now looked smaller, their proud airs dissolving. Mrs. Hargrove stood, flushed, her aristocratic mask slipping away. "This is absurd," she exclaimed. But my mom wasn't done yet. "To think you'd stand upon these lies and dare judge my daughter's worth based on them. Erica is worth 1,000 of your fabricated titles. She is real, something you seem to have forgotten how to be." The whispers intensified, the guests' looks now tinged with disdain as they turned on the Hargroves. Mr. Hargrove tried to speak, but his voice betrayed him, faltering as his accent slipped into something less polished, more desperate. "We did what we thought was best." "For who?" my mom snapped, her tone sharp. "For your son? For society? Or just for your own fragile pride?" The room buzzed with tension, the truth now hanging in the air, the Hargroves shrinking before it. Jake's face twisted in disbelief and anger. He stormed over to me, hissing, his voice a low growl as he leaned in close. "You've ruined everything, Erica. You've humiliated my family. Now you're questioning if I even want to marry you after this." His words stung, but before I could reply, he grabbed my arm, pulling me closer. "I'll show you how to be a good wife, one who knows her place." His threat hung in the air, heavy with malice. I yanked my arm away with all my strength, stepping back. The room fell into complete silence, every eye on us. This was the man I had nearly married. This was the family I was about to join. No, this wasn't my life. Drawing a deep breath, I channeled my mom's strength. "There will be no wedding," I declared loudly, ensuring every guest heard. "I regret ever considering marrying someone who mirrors the arrogance and deceit of his parents." The room erupted into murmurs, some shocked, others supportive. Jake stood frozen, mouth agape, struggling to comprehend what I had just said. My mom stood by my side, a protective presence in the chaos. Together, we made our way through the crowd, heads held high. In the weeks that followed, the truth about the Hargroves spread like wildfire. Their fake lineage and high society personas crumbled, exposing their humble origins. Once revered figures, they now avoided public places, their names tainted. They sold their mansion and disappeared, seeking to escape their ruined reputation. As for Jake, I heard scattered rumors of his downward spiral, nights spent drowning in the scandal. I didn't care to know if they were true. He had shown his true self, and that was enough for me. "Thank you, Mom," I said one evening as we sat together in our cozy living room, so different from the world of pretension I had almost entered. "For everything, for standing by me, for showing me the truth when I needed it most." She squeezed my hand, her voice warm. "I'll always be here, Erica. You're my daughter, and I raised you to be strong. No man, no family can ever make you less than who you are." We sat in comfortable silence, the sounds of the TV in the background. I had lost a fiancé, but gained my freedom, my self-respect, and most importantly, my future. Returning to work after the whole wedding fiasco felt like stepping into a safe haven. My coworkers, having heard about the drama, were nothing but supportive. "Erica, you dodged a bullet," Marco said as I walked into the office. He leaned on my desk, holding out a steaming cup of coffee, offering it as a kind of peace offering. "Thanks, Marco. It feels good to be back," I replied, taking the coffee, savoring its warmth. "Yeah, that bullet was more like a cannonball," Jenny added from her cubicle. "Anyone who makes you serve guests at your own wedding isn't worth a second thought." I smiled, grateful for their kindness. "I think so too. It's nice to be appreciated for who I am, not for the family I almost married into. The weeks passed, and the support from my team never wavered. It was during this time of healing that I met Brian. A friend of a friend, nothing particularly special about his background, just a genuine guy with a contagious smile and an easygoing nature. We met at a casual gathering and hit it off instantly. His family, the complete opposite of the Hargroves, welcomed me with open arms and warm smiles. "Erica, we're just so happy Brian found someone who makes him so happy," his mom said, enveloping me in a hug as soon as I stepped inside their home. It was so refreshing, the simplicity of it all. No pretenses, just kindness and mutual respect. Brian and I were taking things slowly, getting to know each other without any rush. At work, my boss called me into his office one afternoon. "Erica, I just want to say, we've all seen how you've handled things. It's been tough, but your work hasn't wavered." I nodded, unsure where this was headed. "We think it's time for you to be promoted. You've proven yourself, and your leadership has been impressive." Walking out of his office, I felt a wave of pride. With a growing relationship, a career on the rise, and the respect of those I cared about, I finally felt like I belonged. Thanks for watching. See you next time, and stay stunned.